Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to discuss with you dividing two whole numbers, leading to an answer which is either a fraction or a mixed number. I'm going to present to you on how does this look like. Okay, as I have said, our lesson for today is dividing two whole numbers leading to an answer that is either in the form of a fraction or a mixed number. Before I proceed with this, let's have a review on how does this look like. How are we going to change or express our answer in a division sentence or dividing two whole numbers as a fraction or a mixed number? I'll make my pen bolder. Okay. So like for example, you are dividing 5 divided by 7, okay? So it is, before we do that, I have introduced among my students the three symbols of divisions. And I call this the dot. We use this symbol of division if we are dividing and one among them is a fraction, okay? And I use this, I call it the house, if I am dividing two whole numbers. And I use this, which is a fractional bar, to express my division as a fraction, okay? So by this time, I'm going to use this division symbol because we are dividing two whole numbers. So we're going to use this symbol. Like for example, you're given 5 divided by 7. So 5 is my dividend and 7 is my divisor. Now, can you get a group of 7 from 5? No. Okay? So you're going to express this as a fraction. The dividend would be the numerator and the divisor would be the denominator. So 5 divided by 7 expressed as a fraction is 5 sevenths. So if you cannot divide, you can simply express your answer as a fraction. Now let's take the opposite. How about if you are dividing 7 divided by 5? Okay? So 7 divided by 5, I'll draw a line here to make it, so they will not be mixed up together. Can you get a group of 5 from 7? Yes. How many? There is 1, okay? So I'm going to write 1 on top of 7, and then I am going to multiply my answer and the divisor, which gives me a 5, and I'm going to subtract, which gives me a 2. There is a one group of 5 in 7, and there are two extra ones. These two extra will be divided among 5, okay? But since you cannot get a group of 5 from 2, then you can express it as a fraction. Your extra would be the numerator and your divisor would be the denominator. So 7 divided by 5 is 1 and 2/5. Meaning to say, there is one group of 5 and the two leftovers will be divided among the 5. But since you cannot divide, you can express it as a fraction. Okay? I will give another example. 3 divided by 4. Can we get a group of 4 from 3? No, because your divisor is bigger. And divisor tells us into how many parts or groups are we going to divide the dividend. Since we cannot get even one group of 4 in a 3, then you can express it as a fraction. So I have my example number 1 here. This is my example number 2. And this is my example number 3. Okay? Now, this is example number 4. I will take the reverse. 4 divided by 3. Okay? 4 divided by 3. Can I get a group of 3 in a 4? Yes. How many? There is one group of 3 in a 4. And if I am going to multiply, I would get a 3. And if I'm going to subtract, there is an extra of 1. Now, what would I do with this 1? I am going to divide 1 by 3. But since I cannot get a group of 3 in a 1, then I am going to express it as a fraction. My extra would be my numerator, and my denominator is my divisor. So the answer is 1 and 1/3. So this is just a simple review on dividing two whole numbers, leading to an answer that is in the form of either a fraction, as my example number 1, and number 2, or a mixed number. No, example number 1 and number 3, and as a mixed number, example number 2 and example number 4. Okay? So we are going to apply these in real world problems. This concept is significant when you are solving real world problems. So we are going to apply these concepts in solving the following problems. This is my problem number 1, which says if 7 people want to share a 30-pound bag of sugar equally by weight, how many pounds of sugar should each person get? Okay, there is the word here share, and you know that if you're going to share, you are going to divide. Okay, if you like, you sharing chocolate bars, sharing apples, of course you're going to slice the apples if there is no enough amount, or break down the chocolate bars. Okay, in this case, you are going to share because of the word share and the word equally. You are going to divide. Okay, now what are you going to divide? Put that in your mind. When dividing, you are going to divide the number. The number to be divided should be put inside the house. Okay. Now the number we used here are 7 and 30. Okay? Think about it. The inside is the number to be divided. The outside or the divisor is the number that tells you how many groups or how many sets are there in the dividend. Okay? So the 7 here represents people, and 30 here represents the amount of sugar. Of course, we cannot divide people, we cannot cut them, but instead it is the pound of sugar to be shared by 7 people. So I'm going to write my 30 as my dividend, and I'm going to write my 7 as my divisor. So I'm going to use the digit by digit division. I will take my 3 first. Can I get a group of 7 from 3? No. So I'm going to write an X here. Okay. And then I have to move to the next digit. If I have to move to the next digit, I would have now a 30. Now, are there groups of 7 in 30? Yes, there are 4 of them. So you're going to write 4 on top of 0. And then you're going to multiply 4 and 7. That gives you 28. And then you are going to subtract. Okay? Here's another one. Subtracting 8 from 0. Can you take a group of 8 from 0? No. So you are going to regroup. And the shortcut way is just simply saying borrow, but actually we are regrouping. We are going to regroup 30 into 20 and 10. So we can get one group of 10 from 30. And I'm going to add that one here. And 10 plus 0, that gives me a 10. So I will just simply write it here. And then I would have two groups of 10 that is left over. So I can now subtract 10 and 8. So 10 minus 8 is a 2. Now 2 minus 2 is a 0. So there are four groups of 7 in 30, and there are two extra ones. Now I have to divide this by 7, but I cannot get a group of 7 from 2. So I am going to express it as a fraction. So I'm going to draw my fractional bar here. Whatever my extra here would be my numerator, and my divisor would be my denominator. So the answer is 4 and 2 sevenths, meaning to say each of the 7 people will get 4 and 2 sevenths pounds of sugar. Okay, now let's move on to the next problem. Okay, here's another problem which says Mrs. Carbonera bought a 45-pound of sugar for her bakery. She divided the flour equally in 4 days. Okay? How much flour did she use each day? Now, there is the word already here that is telling you to divide. So, you are going to divide. So, I'm going to set up now my division symbol, which is I have, as I have said, if you're dividing two whole numbers, your division symbol would be, I called it always the house. Okay? Now, which is to be divided here? Will it be the days or the pounds of flour? Of course, it is the pounds of flour. So I'm going to write my 45 as my dividend and 4 as my divisor. And I'm going to apply my digit by digit division. So I have to take my first digit here. So I have 4 divided by 4. When you are dividing the same numbers, the answer is always a 1. So I have to put my 1 on top of my 4. And if I'm going to multiply my 1 and 4, that gives me a 4. If I'm going to subtract, I would be getting a 0. Now, after subtracting, next step in division is to bring down. So I'm going to bring down my 5. Do I get a group of 4 in a 5? Yes. How many? There is 1. So I'm going to write my 1 on top of my 5 here. And then if I'm going to multiply, I would be getting a 4. If I'm going to subtract, I would have an extra of 1. Now, what would I do with my extra here? I would still divide this by 4. But can I divide it? No. So, since I cannot divide, I would express it as a fraction. And how would my fraction look like? Whatever the extra, that would be my numerator, and my denominator is my divisor. So therefore, Mrs. Carbonera used 11 and 1/4 pounds. I okay, encircled the numbers. I'm sorry for that. So Mrs. Carbonera would or used 4 and 1/4 pounds of flour every day in 4 days. Okay? So that is the solution or the answer for problem number 2. Now let's move on to problem number 3. After dance practice, 7 dancers equally shared 4 bottles of 4 large bottles of water. What fraction of a bottle did each dancer get? Remember, what fraction? Meaning to say, your answer is a fraction. And there's the word equally shared. You know, if you share, you divide, right? So we divide, okay? And what I am going to use the house again because my numbers are both whole numbers. Now, there are two numbers given here, 7 and 4. 7 represents dancers and 4 represents large bottles of water. Which between the two numbers is to be divided? Which is to be shared? The dancers or the large bottles of water? Of course, the 4, because 4 represents bottles of water and 7 represents the dancers. And of course, we cannot cut dancers or divide dancers, okay? Now, 4 divided by 7. Question, can you get a group of 7 from 4? No. Therefore, I have to express my answer as a fraction. My dividend would be my numerator. My divisor would be my denominator. Therefore, each dancer would get 4/7 of a bottle. Okay? So I satisfied my question here, fraction. My answer is a fraction. Okay? Now let's move on to the last problem. Okay? The last problem says, and bought a chocolate bars to be shared. I'm sorry, and bought 5 chocolate bars to be shared equally among herself and her 5 friends. How much of a bar of chocolate did each get? Think of the question. How much of a bar? Meaning to say it is just part of a bar. Okay? And what is to be divided here? What do you think are the two given numbers? Okay, what do you think are the two given numbers? Will it be 5 and 5? No. Think of it. Among herself and her 5 friends. So, how many people are sharing the 5 chocolate bars among herself and 5 friends? So, how many people are there? There are 6 people who would be sharing. So, I'm going to divide again. I'm going to put my no, I'm sorry, my house here, and I am going to put the chocolate bars here because it is the chocolate bars to be shared among the 6 people. Why 6? Because it says among herself, that is 1 and 5 friends. So there are 6 of them who would be sharing equally the 5 chocolate bars. Now, can you divide? Is there a group of 6 in a 5? There is none. So I'm going to express my answer as a fraction. As I have told you, whatever my dividend is always my numerator, and whatever my divisor is always my denominator. So which means to say each of them, the 6 friends, herself and 5 friends, would be getting 5/6 of the chocolate bar. Okay? So I hope this video would somehow help you better understand on how to express the quotient or the answer when dividing two whole numbers. The answer would either be a fraction or a mixed number. I hope this would somehow help you better understand this concept. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.